Hello, I'm Tennessee Commissioner of Agriculture Charlie Hatcher, and thanks for having me for the Tennessee Forestry Association Annual Conference. And I wanted to go through a few topics here. So the first one is the state of the state. And so, I learned early on as commissioner of the importance of forestry to the state. And we've got a really supportive governor, Governor Bill Lee, as his rural initiative. And that's based on, as you go out in these rural counties, you see two things. You see agriculture and you see trees. So you got agriculture and forestry. And so as this pandemic started, we soon realized the importance, or the increased importance of agriculture and forestry, and the impact of the pandemic had on those industries. And so in 2019, the trade wars had significant impact on ag and forestry economies. A big decrease. We lost some exports that impacted commodity prices. And then in 2020, with the pandemic, we saw further depression of the ag and forestry economies. And, the ag and forestry economies from the start, in my view, were leaders during the pandemic. We were considered critical infrastructure. The industry, both agriculture and forestry industries, took it upon themselves to continue their work just as they always do. We're accustomed to hardships in agriculture and forestry, and it was just another one of those that we persevered through. So thank you for what you've done for supplying the fiber for all Tennesseans and for the world. And so the state of agriculture and forestry industries now, it hasn't been that good, but moving forward, we got the support of the Financial Stimulus Accountability Group and Governor Bill Lee. So we were able to get, they released $55 million in federal CARES money for us for a program to help ag and forestry businesses who were negatively impacted by coronavirus. And so if you could show a coronavirus loss or expense, or you could show an impact or a way you could help the supply chain, because the supply chains were impacted by the pandemic, you could apply for that money. And the forestry industry ended up receiving, or we think, or at least allocated, of that $55 million, 20% or so is for the forestry industry, which is a fantastic thing. And so we realize the importance of the forestry industry, and we realize the importance of the economic recovery, and we realize the importance of forestry in rural communities. We have, within the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, we have the Business Development Group that's headed by Keith Harrison. We have Mr. Neil Owens, who is a business consultant for the forestry industry, and he worked hand in hand with the forestry industry in the applications for the CFA the Corona and Ag and Forestry Business Fund application process, and that has turned out very well. So we're excited about that. Stay tuned. Those monies need to be expended before the end of the year, and we think we'll look back on this, and this will be a historical moment in time, as this amount of money will have a huge impact, I think, on the supply chain, on the ag and forestry industries for generations to come. Now, as part of the rural initiative and as part of rural economic development, we're always concerned about workforce development. And so within the forestry sector, you guys are a big part of that. And so the Tennessee Division of Forestry has been working with workforce development. We're tied in with the rural initiative at the governor's office, and we know that there's a lot of potential for workforce development, both for loggers, for the forestry industry in general, and everywhere in the system in between. So we realize that's an opportunity, and you're going to see some movement in that area as well. And I wanted to touch on the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program and how effective that's been. And as part of that, some of those funds go to TFA for the Master Logger Program. And that's so beneficial because that's an educational program that education is one thing you can't take away from somebody, and the loggers are so important. And so we continue to fund that, and we'll leverage that program. And we think that helps the industry as a whole. And as we begin to analyze the industry, we can see that the Ag Enhancement Program for master loggers really pays off. So, the Division of Forestry, the mission is to conserve, protect, and enhance Tennessee forests by assisting landowners and meeting those objectives. And that's what the Division of Forestry does every day. But I want to take a second here to also to tell you what impressed me when I became Commissioner of Agriculture. And it really should be, part of that, the Division of Forestry is over half of our department really in the number of employees. But right away I realized the impact they have and was so excited to see the revenue they generate from sale of timber of state forests across the state, how they effectively manage and conserve and promote forest sustainability and health, and also the training opportunities that have been provided to us on out-of-state firefighting efforts has been tremendous. It's allowed us or the division as a unit to be better trained, better prepared, with even a smaller force. I believe we have better equipment and better training than we did years ago. So they're to be commended for that, and it's a great thing. So when I saw those revenue checks coming across my desk, both from sale of timber and also the money that was generated for out-of-state firefighting efforts, it's a wonderful thing. And you usually don't see that in any other department. So I just wanted to mention that. And impressive also, and I have to mention this, is as former state veterinarian, the tremendous emergency preparedness efforts within Division of Forestry. The incident command structure, we used that when I was state veterinarian and was fighting the bird flu, and that's a great thing. And the Division of Forestry can help us and help the state on emergency preparedness for not only fighting forest fires, but other things. And so we're going to rely on their experience in the incident command structure and emergency preparedness for a lot of different things, for animal health, potentially for the pandemic, and the lessons they can teach us will be invaluable moving forward. So I wanted to mention those things. So another thing that's very impressive to me is the seedling, the nursery program, where 5 million seedlings are produced every year for landowners to use. That just helps promote or helps support the forestry industry and the growth of trees, and we're delighted about that. And in this day of greenhouse gases, there's you see a lot of that on television these days. Trees are the answer, or growing live plants are the answer to that, as they sequester carbon out of the atmosphere. And so it's a wonderful thing to be able to have a forest that pulls that carbon out of the atmosphere and at the same time is productive and helps provide the fiber for Tennesseans. So what a great thing. And our partnership that we have to conserve, there's a renewed interest not only in rural forests but urban forests. We're beginning to, we have been looking and working with cities as well on forestry projects, and I'm glad to see that happen. So as we move forward, everything that we do really depends upon the future depends upon the youth of this country. And so we want to continue to educate, and you guys are part of that, educate the consumer on where their fiber comes from, where their food comes from, and the hard work that goes into it. And together we can do that. And so I realize that this annual convention looks different. You can't meet in person, and there's a lot of virtual conventions, but I hope it goes well, and I hope it's a productive meeting for you guys.